more so those in the energy sector and those that are engaged in commercial activities, Honorable Speaker. And I also note, Honorable Speaker, yesterday the communication from the Cabinet that indicated that some of these state corporations are lined up for privatization, a matter that I fully support, and especially that of the Kenya Pipeline Company Limited, which is also being lined up for privatization. Because when you privatize, Honorable Speaker, you harness both the public resources that we have and also the expertise of the private sector, especially in the management of institutions that otherwise become inefficient because of the bureaucracies of the public sector. And indeed, I look forward, Honorable Speaker, to a time when this privatization becomes a reality to ensure that the Kenya Pipeline Company, for instance, Honorable Speaker, is able to deliver on its mandate effectively and more efficiently than it does today, and in a manner that ensures safety to many Kenyans. When you remember what happened in Sinai some years ago, and I want to believe that with private sector coming into play in that sector, we will have more resources and better expertise in the management of some of these state corporations, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we talk about corruption every day in this country, but hardly do we ever act on corruption. And I must commend the Public Investments Committee because it remains an integral part of the fight against corruption. I remember, Honorable Speaker, some years back when I served as the Vice Chair of the Public Investments Committee, and we looked into the haste that was then the National Youth Fund, where people in one afternoon scattered away 180 million shillings, money that was meant for our youth. And out of the work that we did in the Public Investments Committee, people were charged and convicted. I want to encourage the Honorable Kosing to follow in the footsteps that we set forth when we served in that Public Investments Committee with the Honorable Kainan Mohammed, who was then my chair. The energy sector in this country, Honorable Speaker, is one of the sectors that are bedeviled with huge and rampant corruption, Honorable Speaker. The cost of electricity, Honorable Speaker, and we have spoken about it time and over again in this House, is so high in this country, largely because of yesteryear corruption. Whether it is in the procurement of power purchase agreements that were entered into years ago, some 30, 25 years ago, that were extremely expensive, Honorable Speaker. And we continue to pay for them today. Today, although some of the state corporations in this sector, Honorable Speaker, are quasi-private, and case in point is a Kenya Power and Lighting Company, Honorable Speaker, and the Honorable Kosing knows. Because it's listed in our stock exchange, and there are private investors in this company, Honorable Speaker, doesn't mean, Honorable Speaker, that the Public Investments Committee should not oversight, since government also puts money in some of these state corporations. And I speak about KPLC because this is one state corporation where the public continues to suffer because of unchecked corrupt activities at KPLC. I'll tell you, Honorable Speaker, if the Public Investments Committee looks into the procurement processes at KPLC, Honorable Speaker, I am speaking this with authority because I am privy to a lot of information, some of which I have passed on to the Public Investments Committee to check. Right from the procurement of transformers at KPLC to the procurement of meters. Honorable Speaker, there are cases where people purport that they are procuring meters in this country and they advertise tenders for locally produced meters. Honorable Speaker, if you delve into those tenders, and I say this with authority because I have taken my time over the last few weeks to see how many of those who have been selling meters to KPLC are actually producing, Honorable Speaker, is rebranding. And I want to challenge the Public Investments Committee, because they have this information now, to look into the procurement of all those things: meters, transformers, cables at KPLC, at REREC, and Ketraco. Because if there is a den of corruption and theft, Kenyans should continue paying heavily for meters that are being shipped in the country as complete products, sold at almost 3-4 times the market value to enrich a few people, Honorable Speaker. And they form a cartel. And they boast in this town how powerful they are. I want the Public Investments Committee to look into this matter, and we see who between these cartels at Kenya Power and Lighting Company and this house, who has more powers vested on them by the people of Kenya. Because cartels cannot be powerful, Honorable Speaker. Cartels are only powerful because they can bribe and manipulate procurement processes in government. And that is why I was very emphatic, Honorable Speaker, from the time His Excellency the President spoke about e-procurement in government last year in his State of the Nation address, to challenge the Ministry of Finance, the National Treasury, to ensure that all public procurement in this country moves to e-procurement, so that we stop the manipulation of tenders, we stop the manipulation of procurement processes in this country, and make it to be what was envisaged by our Constitution, Article 226 of our Constitution, that all public procurement shall be done in a fair, transparent, and accountable manner. Honorable Kosing, if you look at the procurement processes at KPLC, you will see there is nothing transparent. There is no accountability at all. And Honorable Speaker, I say that because I have been very interested in that procurement process since I learned what is going on there. I know, Honorable Speaker, that PIC largely deals with post-audit issues, but nothing stops the Public Investments Committee from dealing with current affairs ongoing in state corporations if it is in the interest of protecting public interest. And I want to ask the Honorable Kosing and his committee to ensure that all these players in the energy sector and those engaged in commercial activities. 2 years ago, we had the edible oil scandal. Because we are using public assets or public parastatals as avenues to enrich a few people. It is only this House that can stamp its authority through our oversight committees to ensure that these parastatals, Honorable Kosing, that you are oversighting, whether it is from audit reports, whether it's from current affairs of ongoing in these state corporations, to ensure that you derive value for the Kenyan people. And deriving value, Honorable Speaker, is not just value to shareholders, even for those that we are privatizing. It is deriving value even for the consumer. All these parastatals in the energy sector, Honorable Speaker, many of them, KPLC is largely a monopoly in this country. Ketraco is also a monopoly. REREC is taking power to our rural areas without competing with anybody else. And therefore, there is absolutely no reason why the state corporations should not be run in a very efficient manner, in a way that they protect public assets and ensure that energy gets to the Kenyan people in a cost-effective manner, efficiently, without frequent blackouts, and also that we pay the right value for public goods. And that's why I said I supported e-procurement, because it will ensure that there is accountability, there is transparency, in how we do public procurement, Honorable Speaker, unlike what has been going on in the past. This House has been dealing with the issue of the moratorium on power purchase agreements, Honorable Speaker. Even as we seek to reopen that space, we must ensure that any new agreements that we get into are agreements that will offer value to the people of Kenya. Any item that we will procure, whether it's at Ketraco, whether it is a transformer, whether it is at REREC, whether it is cables, whether it is meters at KPLC, that we are obtaining this equipment at the most cost-effective and market value or market prices for commodities, so that we do not procure things and end up paying 2-3 times as people roam around in town telling us how powerful they are. Honorable Kosing, you have your duty card for you. Show us that indeed your committee has teeth to bite. Let those who are stealing from Kenyans at KPLC have their day in court. Let those who are stealing from us in those other commercial enterprises in government have their day in court. Because that is the only way, Honorable Speaker, we will ensure that we also don't become another talk shop against corruption, but indeed we use our oversight committees to ensure that we deal decisively with the cancer of corruption and ensure that the people who have elected us to represent them, we have put public interest ahead of everything else and ensure that we hold to account those who abuse our resources, whether they're in ministries or they're in parastatals, as the Honorable Kosing has done, in going through all these voluminous reports, Auditor General's reports. And you know, Honorable Speaker, because I'm an accountant, I know auditors don't point out issues for the sake. Even where they are wrong, if you dig deeper, you will find something. They say in English, where there is smoke, there is fire. Where the Auditor General points at you, there is something. And I want to invite the Auditor General and the State Corporations Inspectorate to also look into the procurement processes, especially in the energy sector, to ensure that we deliver value for the Kenyan people, Honorable Speaker. Because we have said, Honorable Speaker, that manufacturing in this country as a percentage of our GDP has been going down. And largely, we blame it on the cost of power. When shall we deal with the cost of power if we do not deal with KPLC, if we do not deal with Ketraco, if we don't deal with REREC, if we don't deal with Kengen, if we don't deal with KPC? When will that cost of power ever come down? For how long are we going to point fingers backwards to the PPAs that were signed 25, 30 years ago, some fortunately which are about to come to an end, thank God. But when they come to an end, are we going to see another PPA being signed, a power purchase agreement being signed, with the same terms as those that we have been complaining about, Honorable Speaker? We pride ourselves as a country that almost 80% of our energy is green energy. Green energy is cheaper energy. But is that cheaper energy getting to the consumer? Is that cheaper geothermal energy, wind energy, solar energy? Since we're in, around the equator, we have very good weather that can give us solar energy almost throughout the year. Is it being reflected on our electricity bills? Is it helping to spur manufacturing in our country, Honorable Speaker? Those are questions we should be asking ourselves as legislators, as people who are charged with the responsibility of oversighting these public assets, Honorable Speaker. And that is why I am really begging, even as we adopt this report and deal with the issues that have been raised by the committee, and I support many of the recommendations that the committee has proposed, that we go beyond the call of duty. We go beyond the Auditor General's reports, because we have our committees, departmental committees, a committee on energy that oversights many of these parastatals, to make sure that we stem theft ahead of time. It is not enough to point out where money has been lost. It is better to capture the thieves before they take off with the money. And there are very many in this country, Honorable Speaker. especially in those parastatals, Honorable Kosing. You must deal with them, and deal with them without fear or favor. I know some pride themselves in boasting around town how well connected they are. Let us see how well they're connected they are in court, not in bars and in town. Let them go and show their connections in court when they are charged. And we will support you, and you can count on my support as the leader of Majority, Honorable Kosing, and your committee to ensure that all these recommendations that you have put in your report are actualized. And therefore support and beg members to support this report, not for the sake of the Public Investments Committee, but for the sake of our good country. We must protect public assets, Honorable Speaker, without apologies to anybody. And that is why I have said, I have no apologies in saying what I am saying. Because what I am saying is right for the country. We must not allow people, because of their political affiliations, to abuse procurement processes in this country. We cannot allow people to be stealing and forming cartels. Then you go boasting around in town how well connected you are. You wait, we will see how well connected you are the day you land in court. And Honorable Kosing is on your case. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, because my time is over. I beg to support.
Very well. Unless there is any other member, I don't see more interest on this bill. I will ask the mover to reply.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply. And in so doing, Honorable Speaker, and I also thank God that you are the one who presided over yesterday, and you are the one presiding over today. Reason being, Honorable Speaker, that at least you have the content and the flow. Honorable Speaker, as I reply, let me begin with what Honorable